A very good afternoon to you, ladies and gentlemen, joining us from United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Qatar, and Kuwait. Good evening to those joining us from India, Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, and other countries from Southeast Asia. And a very good morning to you, Professor Vishal Gaur, who is joining us today from the United States. It is my pleasure today to connect with all of you on this webinar on Cornell's Senior Executive Leadership Program, which is a 10-month program designed for senior leaders like you. As you can see on the screen, it has a 2-week in-class module at the Cornell New York campus, an immersion for 2 days in Dubai on reimagining the future, and 10 online modules, 2 of which are electives based on your own individual preferences. At the end of the program, you will have a graduation ceremony at the Cornell New York campus. You will receive a Cornell University certificate and get the prestigious Cornell Executive Alumni status. Throughout this program, you will network with a tightly knit cohort of global leaders from diverse geographies, and of course, the faculty teaching at Cornell University. This program has a very unique and well-researched curriculum, which is relevant to modern times, addressing leadership challenges by having modules like intersection of strategy and operations, as opposed to just talking about strategy or operation as an isolated problem. It has a module on convergence of innovation, tech, and sustainability. And this program is delivered on the beautiful Cornell campus on Roosevelt Island in Manhattan, New York. Now, you all know that any program is as good as the faculty who teach in the program. So it gives me immense pleasure in sharing with you that the faculty director for this program is Professor Ellen Filipovich, who holds 7 degrees from Ivy League universities, including PhD from Harvard, MBA from Wharton, and many degrees in engineering from Cornell University. He has several decades of teaching experience and has been instrumental in designing this program, along with the other colleagues you see on the screen now. Now, there are 4 former deans teaching in this program, and each one of this faculty is highly accomplished. They have great credentials in terms of being original researchers. They are on board of different companies. They have good consulting practices. They are investors, and they are very well sought out mentors. While we are on the subject of faculty, it is my pleasure now to introduce Professor Vishal Gaur, who is also teaching in the program. Professor Gaur is the Emerson Professor of Manufacturing Management at the Cornell University and the former MBA Dean. His research interests lie in the area of data-driven modeling, econometric analysis, and optimization of operation management problems. Before Cornell, he taught at the Harvard Business School and the NYU Stern School of Business. He has his PhD from Wharton, and today, Professor Gaur will take us through data analytics in the digital age. So without further ado, I would like to invite Professor Gaur. Over to you, Professor Vishal Gaur.
Thank you very much, Rupesh, for introducing the program and for this warm welcome. It's a pleasure for me to be here and to talk with all of you about our program and about what I do, so you get an idea of the faculty who are teaching in this program. My topic is data analytics in the digital age. And this is an area in which I do research. So to give you a little bit of background to add to what Rupesh said, I obtained my undergraduate in computer science and my PhD in operations research. And all of my research for more than 2 decades has been done in close interaction with companies. So during this time, over a long period, I have developed an agenda on how data analytics, machine learning need to be organized into the industry and how industry is rapidly transforming itself through these things. So this is exactly what I teach. I have been a Cornell faculty member for more than 15 years now, since 2007. And during this time, I teach to executives and MBA students and PhD students topics related to what I call digital business operations. So not just operations, but how do you run the operations of a company when it is facing digital changes, or if the company itself is digital, such as a services company or an e-commerce oriented company. I also teach about retail operations, which have been getting really transformed through omni-channel retailing, e-commerce, and different kinds of technology models that are changing the way retail stores run. And then also on supply chains. And I think we have heard so much about supply chains during the last 2 years with COVID. And really, data is what makes a lot of that possible and allows us to recover more effectively from supply chain disruptions and challenges. So the types of things that I bring to this program relate to my work in the area of demand forecasting, inventory management in retailing, in manufacturing, in supply chains. And how do we link changes or improvements in operations of firms with their financial performance? What type of metrics are relevant for operations and for finance? How can we achieve long-term financial success? What are metrics of optimization of supply chains, which can be improved using data and using analytics? Where do marketplaces fit into all of this? And how do we configure marketplaces for impact? And then we all need to create a culture in our organization for conducting experiments to learn and to discover new things. How do we do that? What have past experiments shown? What is the experience of other companies that have experimented with regard to the upswing that they got from their experiments? I have applied these ideas to the need of the world today with regard to sustainability. Can we reduce food waste throughout the supply chain using better data, better measurement, and better analytics? Can we track things using blockchain and improve performance? So this is a really important topic. And being here today, you stand at the cusp of this change that you can effect. So I'll take you through an example to illustrate some of the points I've described. So let's pick on one of the most common examples these days of semiconductor chip shortage. I assume you all know about this, and really, automotive companies started facing this challenge sometime in late 2020. So about 6-7 months into the pandemic, and it seemed that everyone was surprised when we first started seeing this in the news. Why? Because we hold automotive companies as the perfection of supply chain management and manufacturing. They have come up with ideas such as lean manufacturing, just-in-time, Toyota production system, etc. over a period of time. And we have seen how automobiles have evolved and become such a good quality product over this period. So when an industry like that gets surprised, that was something that came as a shock to everyone. For example, the Audi purchasing chief saying, we have to have a better understanding of the risks in the supply chains of our suppliers. So, and this continued. So, and it has actually gone up in terms over the supply chain, in terms of the impact it is having on companies. So, for example, the chip making companies that started getting bigger orders for automobile from automobile manufacturers found that they needed to create new semiconductor fabs. So they needed to place orders with their suppliers. And so the shock propagates upstream to the supply chain. So they say that they had too few chips for chip making. And then it starts to affect new product development, where some companies say that their development of cutting edge technology gets threatened. So what's going on? And can we use data to derive some insight into this problem? So with that in mind, I obtained data on the entire global supply network for the last 2 decades. And I started studying that data to see what's going on. And here's an example of what that data shows. So this is supply chain linkages of General Motors at the firm level. Okay, this does not use any internal data from General Motors, and it's not at the product level, it's at the firm level. And this is for the year 2017, before the pandemic. And what I observed from here is, so there are 5 green and General Motors is shown in red. And what I observe from here is that the supply chain is complex. There are a large number of intermediaries, about 90 of them actually. And the path from any semiconductor chip manufacturer to General Motors goes through these multiple hops through multiple intermediaries. Another thing that is not visible on this slide is that this supply chain actually changes a lot from year to year. So one year it may be these intermediaries, and the next year about 15% of them will change and new ones will emerge. Is a possible reason why these companies faced a problem. And by using data and by mapping out the supply chain, we can start to think about how to address that issue. This is the entire automobile sector, or not the entire sector, sourcing from different semiconductor chip manufacturers. And then the story is not limited to automotive companies. When we look at the similar supply chain for computer manufacturers, we see exactly the same thing. Computer manufacturers also have long supply chains. Everybody has long supply chains. And we see the impact of that when we can come to a ship that got stuck in Suez Canal, or the global shipping industry shortages that started supply chains better. And there are some examples of companies that have actually not faced the challenge, and you can see that from Apple. And so what does Apple's supply chain look like? And here on the right side of my slide, you see what Apple's supply chain looks like from exactly the same data. So here's a company that was actually able to have visibility into its semiconductor chip manufacturers and source better. So by improving supply chain visibility using data and planning in a coordinated fashion, we can see how a lot of impact is possible in our supply chains in making them more resilient to disruption. So this is one example of what is going on. And this concerns with manufacturing and supply chains. But in my work, I see that companies are becoming more data-driven in every single industry. And there are many, many reasons why this is happening. One big reason is robotic process automation. So to remove the repetitive, inefficient human work from our operations, we are using modern technology to automate more and more. This is happening in our accounting and finance functions, in our legal functions, in our software functions, in clerical functions, etc. That's one reason. Another reason is that using data and analytics allows us to achieve better customer service. We can use customized data for each customer to provide more effective targeted service to that customer. A third reason is that if I work with data rather than manually, I can actually target promotions to my customer real time based on when that customer can most benefit from that promotion. So it could be at the time when the customer is shopping in a store or online, or it could be at a time when the customer is stuck somewhere and needs help and is typing for a product to search on her browser. Data analytics is also useful to meet sustainability targets. I talked about food waste and blockchain in a couple of slides back. Carbon footprinting is another area where we cannot achieve what we want to achieve without measuring things using data throughout our supply chain. And in general, companies today need to make micro decisions at scale. For example, if I'm a retailer, I need to make decisions about every single product in every single store and my fulfillment center. And if a store has 100,000 products or 500,000 products, and I have 1,000 stores, the number of decisions multiplies. Currently, the best way of making these decisions is by using simple rules of thumb or manual decision making, which is error prone at that scale. But by using proper analytics, we can make those processes more effective, more efficient, accurate, reliable, and scalable. And then finally, many industries are getting disrupted because of new sources of value and new sources of data that are emerging. And so to stay ahead of competition, one needs to be more data driven in this system. And every product is getting transformed. So here's the thermostat, and in my house the thermostat used to look like this 20 years back, either on the left side or on the right side. But today thermostat products look like this, and the thermostat is connected to the Wi-Fi of my home, and through that Wi-Fi connection it transmits data to the cloud, and there's a data engineer sitting in the company who applies algorithms to that data to determine the energy efficiency of my home and tell me how I can improve my usage of energy. So the role of the company doesn't stop at the sale of the thermostat. It actually begins at the sale of the thermostat. So all our products are sending data to the cloud. We need to have analytics capability to work with that data, and then use that capability to improve our products and bring about new innovations. So this is what is happening in every industry these days. Old time manufacturing used to be that a manufacturer will create a product, and it would be a win if the product has a lot of automation in it, and it achieves automated results for customers. Think washing machine, think dishwasher, or refrigerator. Today, those products are getting changed. The software has become the interface of the product, and the physical hardware has become commoditized, and the source of value has shifted completely towards the software and towards the analytics that can guide the performance of that product. Printers, computers, all products work in the same fashion, and all services are getting delivered in the same fashion. And we hear of terms like product lifecycle management, where data is collected from usage as well as from manufacturing and upstream supply chain to improve the entire value of the product. So to conclude, these are the types of things that I work with, I teach, and I would be bringing to this program. We would be looking at many different kinds of data that exist in practice. I like to bring in real live examples of data from my research into my teaching. So you'll get to see these, usage data, customer data, supply chain data, etc. And then we try to introduce ideas at a strategic level and at an operational level as to what can we do with that data and how can we drive value, and what are good examples of what companies have done to drive value from that data. And to my last slide, so in terms in a big picture level, we want to prime this wheel of collecting data, using data to predict, acting on that data, and then continuing the cycle to improve performance for a company. And there are many, many tools available, but this is a task that has to begin at the top of a company by creating the right culture in the organization, by having the right mandate for people to work on this and to grow and develop. So Rupesh, these are the things I wanted to mention. I can stop sharing and back to you. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Professor Gaur, for that insightful session on data analytics. I'm sure most of us already know that, but this session is probably a nudge for everybody to embrace digital analytics in this digital age. And especially if we want to be on top of the game, the need to keep constantly upskilling. And in a program like this, in the Cornell SELP, participants will have multiple opportunities of exploring the horizons and probably being better at the game they are currently playing. So let me quickly go back now to the PPT, which I was sharing earlier with you. And I'm sure you can see this properly. So the program starts, as you all know, on 5th of December at the Cornell New York campus, where you have a first module, which is the intersection of strategy and operations. After that, you go on with the online modules, which is 15 days each module. In the middle of the program, in the month of May 2023, we have an industry immersion on reimagining the future. It's a 2-day session at Dubai, which explores how the world will look like 10 years from now. And it will challenge you to explore and figure out what role are we as individuals going to play in that market. So it'll take us through customer centricity, evolving methodologies in the digital area, the blockchain, fintech, etc. And then you carry on with the online modules. And finally, you assemble back on the Cornell campus in October 23, where you have the graduation ceremony, where you attain the prestigious executive alumni status and make friends for life and maybe business partners too. This is how the certificate looks like. And I'm sure you will be happy and excited to see your name on that certificate. This certificate is provided by the university and will be signed by the dean and the faculty director. I would like to mention a couple benefits of being the prestigious executive alumni of Cornell. So with this program, after successful completion, you get access to Cornell's online leadership symposiums. You get waivers to enable your learning journey so that you can pick up more programs. You get a lifetime SELP email address. And most importantly, you go back home with a very strong and powerful network of global leaders across different geographies. So who is this program for? Of course, this is designed for senior executives like you. We need a minimum of 10 plus years of experience, proven track record of leadership, of having managed teams or having delivered impactful projects in an individual capacity role as well. You have at least a graduate degree. You have to be fluent in English. And of course, the region, your locality at the start of the program should be Middle East, South Asia, or Far East. You are already aware of this. The program fees is $25,000. And the upcoming deadline is 6th of October, 2022, which is a few days from now. Because this involves a little bit of introspection, I would recommend that you start filling this application early, where you share with us, what are your learning objectives out of the program, what value would you add to the network, because this program again, this cohort again will be as good as the people who are in it. And as I said earlier, all of you will add great value coming from your own individual experiences from different functions, different industries, different education, different geographies. So let me highlight what does the current cohort looks like. So, folks like these will be rubbing shoulders with you in the classroom. So we have group CFOs, we have directors, we have entrepreneurs, we have finance heads, we have controllers, and they come from different geographies like Arabia, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Singapore, India, Vietnam, Malaysia, etc. And all of them come from top quality companies that bring in substantial experience in different industries and functions. Interestingly, we have one candidate who is a practicing dentist and also teaches at Howard. You see, so you will meet very, very interesting people like that, and hopefully each one of you who will be a participant later will add significant value to the program here. At this juncture, I would like to open the floor for questions. And I see that people have already started putting in their questions on the chat box. So what I'll do, Professor Gaur, is I will read out those questions for you, and possibly you could answer those questions. So just give me a second. I'm opening the chat box. Professor Gaur, we have the first question from Haider. And Haider asks, as a leader who works with large teams, how important is it to get into business analytics? Or is it more like a mid-management skill set?
Thank you, Rupesh. That's a really important question. In my experience in working with different kinds of companies, in manufacturing, in online marketplaces, and in retailing, and also financial software, the really large companies that are at the Fortune 100 level, I think for success, it is really important that business analytics and data analytics be an ingredient of the topmost strategy of a company. I have spoken with some of the largest retailers in the world, and their hiring practices have changed over the last several years to be very data analytics driven. For example, they are hiring more data analytics professionals than other kinds of professionals, for example. There is a reason why I think I'm answering your question in this fashion, because analytics needs to be integrated into the process of a company. So we see that in lots of companies. Like if you look at Zara versus a traditional retailer, the decision-making processes and the soft architecture of the company are completely different. It's the same in others also. So for that integration to happen, it is important that the data analytics strategy is guided from the top, and the decisions at the top are also considered as data-driven decisions. There cannot be a bifurcation where at the top we are making decisions purely based on gut feel, or are lowering the importance of data analytics, because data analytics is more than machine learning. It is the way in which a company makes decisions. In fact, machine learning, I would say, is a really small part of it. I would say if you want to get into this to be successful, and there is really no alternative, you need to invest in analytics and guide it from the top. Most companies that I have worked with, the CEO is the one who's directly involved in setting the analytics strategy of a company.
Thanks, Professor, for that insightful answer. The next question, Professor, is a sector-specific question. We have Lena here who says, I am a director in a global logistics firm. How and where can I apply these skills?
Yeah, I think this is a very good question, and it is actually somewhat related to the previous question. As a global logistics person, there are many places where one can apply these skills. So logistics is getting transformed in several different ways. One that we hear about a lot is last mile delivery. And last mile delivery is not just a feature, it is a completely new product. So a question for a company is, do I want to get into that product? And how will I get into it? And how do I operationalize it? If we go backwards in the value chain, the next piece in logistics is supply chain fulfillment or managing and running fulfillment centers. That problem has also become very different now with e-commerce and with brick and mortar and many different methods of fulfillment. So using analytics to drive shorter lead times and fast responsiveness and low stock out rate is important. As we go further upstream, as my example was showing, we need to have reliability in our supply chain. And to have that reliability, we need to measure how our suppliers are doing. Where is my product in the supply chain? Why is my shipping getting delayed? I was working with a manufacturer who manufactures in Europe and imports to the US in food products. And food products are short shelf life products that can go bad. And during the shipping delays that were happening, their lead times became longer and more uncertain. So they needed more visibility. So I think those are some examples where a global logistics professional can apply these things. I hope that helps. It's a very good question.
Surely does, Professor Gaur. And thank you for answering the question. I have a lot of other questions too, but in the interest of time and being respectful of everybody else's time, I would like to conclude by thanking all the participants who have taken the valuable time out for this session. And I believe that you found great value in this webinar. Thank you, Professor Gaur, for taking the time out for this webinar again. And we will connect with all the participants. We have your contact details. We will share the recording of this webinar and will assist you further in the application process. I wish and hope that at least some of you meet us in December on the New York Cornell campus. I wish you all the very best. And thank you so much again for participating.
Wishing you all the best. Thank you, Rupesh.